It all begins on a night of torrential rain. In the shadows of a narrow, secluded alley, two figures emerge. One of them, caught completely off guard by the other's presence, reacts with sudden panic. But in the blink of an eye, it's over. One man is slammed to the ground in excruciating pain. The man behind this brutal takedown? None other than Wu Jiao. Without wasting a second, Wu Jiao hauls the unconscious man back to his secret lair. The scene inside is a nightmare. The victim is strapped tight to a table, his body pierced with countless tubes pumping blood into him. He's paralyzed, forced to lie there and endure whatever hell is coming next. But just as Wu Jiao begins his twisted experiments, the law catches up to him. Prosecutor Yun and a squad of police officers storm the scene, catching him red-handed. You'd expect a man in handcuffs to be terrified, but Wu Jiao has nerves of steel. Facing the hand of justice, he remains eerily nonchalant. With a terrifyingly innocent smile, he actually tries to explain his medical procedures to the officers, as if he's simply treating a patient. Nauseated by his depravity, Yun orders her men to drag him away to the station immediately. As Wu Jiao is escorted out, Yun and her partner survey the horror show he left behind. The room is a grisly sight. Medical instruments caked in dried blood and a freezer emitting a stench so foul it's suffocating. Looking at the evidence, Yun realizes she isn't just dealing with a criminal. She's dealing with a complete psychopath. Meanwhile, sitting calmly in the back of the police cruiser, Wu Jiao overhears a radio report. One of the victims is actually still alive. Instead of showing fear, he remains smug, muttering to himself, "I told you, he's not a victim." The next morning, the police station is a war zone. Reporters have swarmed every entrance, desperate for answers about the gruesome case. Amidst the chaos, a man named Jeffrey is struggling to handle the media pressure. Suddenly, Han Jun appears from the crowd to bail him out. He tells the press to have faith in the police investigation and quickly ushers Jeffrey into a car to escape the frenzy. Once inside the car, Jeffrey is visibly relieved, thanking Han Jun for the timely rescue. But Han Jun isn't in the mood for gratitude. He shuts Jeffrey down with a cold, hard truth. You only walked free because this was your first offense. One more slip-up and you're going straight to prison. Right then, Han Jun's phone pings. He's been summoned to a high-stakes meeting. Han Jun meets with a doctor to discuss a mysterious medical treatment. The doctor lays out the entire procedure, leaving the final decision in Han Jun's hands. Later, standing outside the hospital, Han Jun recounts the meeting to his wife. But when he sees his young daughter's smile, his heart burns with a mix of desperation and guilt. Back at the precinct, Yun enters the interrogation room for her first face-off with Wu Jiao. She grills him about his sick experiments and the human remains found in his freezer. Wu Jiao, unfazed, claims that everything he did was in the name of science. He insists he's developing a miracle cure for terminal illnesses. As for the bodies, Wu Jiao doesn't see himself as a monster. In his twisted mind, the few lives he took are a small price to pay if it means saving millions of others. He is so far gone that he truly believes he is a messiah, not a murderer. Word of the interrogation leaks, and the news spreads like wildfire. As the headlines hit the stands, the public is left in a state of absolute shock and horror. While following the breadcrumbs left by Yun, Min Chul makes a gruesome discovery: a set of skeletal remains, buried deep by Wu Jiao. When he calls it in, the shock is overwhelming. It turns out this isn't an isolated incident. This is just one of 17 victims who fell prey to Wu Jiao's sick and twisted depravity. But here is where the plot thickens. The killer specifically handpicks the man he wants to defend: Han Jun. When the news hits, Han Jun is completely blindsided. Why would a psychopath like this choose him out of the hundreds of elite lawyers available? To settle his confusion, a journalist delivers a cryptic message directly from Wu Jiao. Just mention the name Sae-guk, and Han Jun will know exactly why. The name Sae-guk hits Han Jun like a bolt of lightning. After pressing for more details, he learns the devastating truth. Sae-guk was also a victim who met his end at the hands of Wu Jiao. Realizing there's a much deeper connection here, Han Jun immediately asks the reporter to pull some strings and arrange a private face-to-face meeting. Meanwhile, back at the office, Yun is stunned when her partner breaks the news. Wu Jiao is already meeting with private counsel. Sensing the gravity of the situation, Yun rushes to the director's office. She demands to take full control of the case, determined to see it through to the end. She knows this isn't just your run-of-the-mill murder case, not with a notorious high-stakes lawyer now in the mix. For someone as dedicated to justice as she is, there's no way she's sitting this one out. Finally, the confrontation happens. The second Han Jun lays eyes on Wu Jiao, he loses it. He lunges forward, grabbing the doctor by the collar and demanding answers about Mon's death and the location of the hidden medical treatments. But Wu Jiao is playing a different game. He remains eerily calm, staying one step ahead and calculating Han Jun's every move like a grandmaster at a chessboard. Then Wu Jiao plays his trump card. He mentions Han Jun's daughter, Min Xiao, and hints at what could happen to her. The mere mention of his child leaves Han Jun paralyzed with fear. Once the tension settles, they finally sit down to talk business. Wu Jiao makes a staggering godfather offer. $1 million up front, and another $1 million if Han Jun successfully gets him out of those handcuffs. Even with $2 million on the table, Han Jun doesn't flinch. He fires back with a challenge. What if I just take your money and refuse to represent you? That's when Wu Jiao shows his true colors as a master manipulator. He claims he's already accounted for that, but he insists that once Han Jun meets the people he has cured, Han Jun will be the one chasing him. The common thread between all these patients: they were all suffering from terminal illnesses. Hearing the words miracle cure spoken with such absolute certainty forces Han Jun to look at the psycho doctor in a whole new light. After leaving the precinct, Han Jun and the reporter head out immediately to track down these supposedly cured patients to see if Wu Jiao is a genius or just a world-class liar. Back at the station, Yun and her team are working overtime, digging into the dark corners of the case. When Minchul hands her the full list of victims, Yun notices a shocking pattern. Every single victim has a violent criminal record. It's a moral bombshell. While Wu Jiao's methods are undeniably illegal, from a certain dark perspective, he wasn't just killing people. He was acting as a vigilante hero by taking out the worst of society. Determined to find the truth, Yun heads back into the interrogation room to grill Wu Jiao on where the rest of the bodies are hidden. Once again, Wu Jiao doesn't blink. He stands by his actions with terrifying conviction, insisting that everything he did, every life he took, was a necessary sacrifice for the ultimate advancement of medicine. After failing to get anything useful out of Wu Jiao, Yun is forced to leave the interrogation room empty-handed. But she's not giving up. As she gets into her car, she immediately calls her team to coordinate a massive search for the remaining victims. Meanwhile, Han Jun and the reporter are pounding the pavement, following every lead, no matter how small, to find just one patient Wu Jiao actually saved. But their search is a total bust. Everywhere they go, they're met with nothing but closed doors and shaking heads. Back at the station, the police decide to put Wu Jiao through a polygraph test. But it's a complete waste of time. The lie detector can't catch him because, in his twisted mind, he's a savior. He genuinely believes his mission is to save lives, and he feels absolutely zero remorse for the 17 victims he's already killed. As the results come back inconclusive, the pressure from the public and the media begins to reach a breaking point. Realizing she needs a different approach, Yun swallows her pride and meets with Wu Jiao privately once again. This time, she doesn't grill him about where the bodies are buried. Instead, she asks him about his treatment, how he actually does what he claims to do. Wu Jiao begins to reveal his origin story. It started small. A shriveled, dead houseplant that he somehow brought back to life overnight. Then it was the fish in his tank. Once he'd seen enough results with animals, he moved on to a terrifyingly ambitious goal: human experimentation. He believed that if he succeeded, he would become a living saint. By the end of the conversation, he finally gives up a crucial piece of evidence: the location of the final victim, hidden deep on a mountainside. As Yun and the police swarm the mountain to recover the body, she can't stop thinking about Wu Jiao's offer. He wants her to help him prove his medical theories in court. But just as the police discover the corpse, Han Jun makes a breakthrough of his own. He finds a young boy named Sang Wu, one of the patients Wu Jiao claimed to have fixed. This is where the story of Wu Jiao, the killer with an unshakable savior complex, takes a wild turn. Han Jun can't believe his eyes. He clearly remembers Sang Wu being paralyzed and confined to a wheelchair, but here the boy is, walking around perfectly healthy on his own 2 feet. Suddenly, Wu Jiao's promise, "I can cure your daughter, Min Xiao," starts to sound dangerously real to Han Jun. At the same time, prosecutors confirm that the bodies found on the mountain are exactly where Wu Jiao said they'd be. It becomes clear that he confessed not to get a lighter sentence, but as a bargaining chip. He doesn't want mercy. He just wants the chance to prove to the world in a court of law that his miracle cure is the real deal. However, Yun isn't buying into the hype. To her, he's just a dangerous lunatic. She stays firm, demanding the maximum penalty: the death sentence. Han Jun is caught in an impossible dilemma. As a lawyer, he knows Wu Jiao is a monster, but as a father, he is desperate to find any way to save his daughter. Knowing Han Jun is still skeptical, Wu Jiao tells him one last story, the miracle that happened to him personally. Years ago, when he was just a medical student, he was involved in a horrific car accident. He was in a deep coma for 3 years, a vegetable with no hope of recovery. But then, against every law of science, he simply woke up. It was a miracle even he couldn't explain, and that one moment sparked his lifelong obsession with cheating death. It turns out there was a scientific anomaly behind Wu Jiao's survival. Doctors discovered a bizarre mutation in his blood after the crash, something that literally pulled him back from the brink of death. But this miracle came with a price. Agonizing, chronic migraines that never let up. Using his own medical genius, Wu Jiao began experimenting on his own broken body, and the results were beyond anything he could have imagined. Even though it sounds like a total fairy tale, Han Jun is officially a believer. He can't deny it because he's seen the physical proof of Wu Jiao's miracles with his own eyes. But time is running out. Outside, the public is out for blood, protesting in the streets and demanding that the court hand down a death sentence. Han Jun is now fighting a lonely battle against the truth, desperately trying to buy enough time for Wu Jiao to save his daughter. But the odds are stacked against them. With 17 confirmed victims, the world sees Wu Jiao as nothing more than a bloodthirsty psychopath who needs to be eliminated. To make matters worse, Prosecutor Yun is proving to be a nightmare for the defense. She's armed to the teeth with evidence, arguing that Wu Jiao didn't just experiment. He went on a sadistic revenge spree, targeting the very person who caused his car accident. Yun has done her homework, and she's laying out every gruesome detail. She presents crime scene photos so horrific that they leave the entire courtroom sickened and gasping for air. But then, in the middle of this nightmare, Wu Jiao does the unthinkable. He starts laughing. This cold-blooded reaction sends the gallery into a blind rage. His arrogance is absolutely nauseating. Things are looking grim for Han Jun. With the entire country screaming for an execution, he makes a desperate plea to the judge. Let Wu Jiao demonstrate his miracle cure right here in court to prove his worth to the public. As it turns out, this was Wu Jiao's master plan from the very beginning, to corrupt Han Jun and force him into a position where he has to protect a monster. Han Jun is reaching his breaking point. Every time he tries to get a straight answer, Wu Jiao just plays mind games, refusing to admit or deny the murders. His logic is chilling. How can they execute a man who holds the cure for every terminal illness? He constantly uses Han Jun's daughter as leverage, twisting the knife in the father's heart every chance he gets. Even though he has no idea what's actually going on inside that cold-blooded killer's head, Han Jun is in too deep to quit now. He's willing to sacrifice everything. His reputation, his morals, his soul, just to save his bedridden daughter. He officially walks away from his prestigious career, trading his high-end life for a filthy, trash-filled room that his reporter friend found to serve as a makeshift office. To save the doctor, Han Jun asks the reporter to plant a story to manipulate public opinion and distract everyone from the murder charges. This media circus has Yun's superiors shaking in their boots, but she doesn't back down for a second. She's confident she can bury this case and see justice served. However, the situation takes a tragic turn at home. Little Minseo's condition is spiraling out of control. Her heart rate is dropping to almost zero while she lies in her coma. Han Jun rushes home, desperate and panicked. He sees his wife, who is completely drained after years of tireless care, and he knows he has to find another way. He's ready to risk it all on Wu Jiao's cure, but his wife is terrified. Minseo is so small and so fragile. She's not ready to be a guinea pig, and her mother isn't willing to gamble with her life. Seeing his wife and child suffering to the point of total exhaustion pushes Han Jun to find a solution as fast as humanly possible. He spends his days tracking down every single patient Wu Jiao ever cured, begging them to take the stand and testify. But it's a total dead end. Not a single person wants to show up, fearing the social stigma of being saved by a cold-blooded killer. Talk about ungrateful cowards. When Wu Jiao hears about this from behind bars, he just gives a bitter, cynical laugh. All those people who once begged him for a miracle now won't even give their benefactor the time of day. To provide Han Jun with the evidence he needs, Wu Jiao mentions a secret journal, a red notebook where he recorded every single step of his experimental process. With no other choice, Han Jun has to return to the nightmare fuel that is Wu Jiao's blood-stained laboratory. He tears the place apart, scavenging through the mess, but there's no sign of the red notebook anywhere. However, while digging through the files, he accidentally stumbles upon a folder containing experimental test results for the exact same illness that's killing his daughter, Minseo. But just as he's getting absorbed in the data, he realizes someone is lurking outside the door. The intruder catches Han Jun's eye and immediately bolts, forcing the lawyer to give chase. Now, let's be real, this kind of high-speed pursuit isn't exactly a great fit for an aging lawyer. Luckily, Han Jun knows the layout and uses a shortcut to tackle the guy. But the big reveal is a total letdown. It's just some punk kid filming a bravery challenge vlog at a famous murder site. This doesn't help his case at all. In fact, Han Jun's day gets even worse when he gets a panicked call from his reporter friend. Han Jun, the inspectors are here. They're kicking down the door to search my office. They're saying my article is nothing but slander. Han Jun floors it back to the office, arriving just as the inspectors are trashing the place. Since they're armed with a search warrant, they have zero respect for him. But Han Jun isn't going down without a fight. He draws a line in the sand, pointing to his specific area and barking, "This is my workspace. You touch a single thing in here, and I will sue you into the ground." Faced with the sheer authority of such a legendary lawyer, the inspectors actually back off, too intimidated to touch his stuff. As it turns out, this entire raid was orchestrated by Yun. She's the daughter of a powerhouse prosecutor and, get this, she was once Han Jun's top student. He reflects on her background, admitting that while he taught his students to be the smartest, he also accidentally taught them to be the most stubborn. It's a classic student versus teacher showdown now that Yun is brazen enough to take on her own mentor, while Han Jun and the reporter are sitting around, sighing over how impossible this case is becoming. A woman named Min Jiang suddenly walks in. It turns out the reporter called this beautiful woman in for backup. Min Jiang is only there because she wants to follow in Han Jun's footsteps. Ever since he left the firm, she's been stuck doing nothing but miserable paperwork. Luckily, Min Jiang's arrival gives the reporter a brilliant idea. Why not use her charm and good looks to persuade the witnesses to come forward? Min Jiang is all for it, confidently bragging about her silver tongue. Han Jun doesn't want to drag anyone else into this mess, but he's completely powerless against her pleading eyes. And just like that, their two-man office gets a much-needed rose to brighten things up. And just as she promised, Min Jiang doesn't let Han Jun down. She manages to convince Sang-woo's mother to testify with almost zero effort. But just when they think they finally have a lead, a massive twist hits them. It turns out every single witness has received a personal letter, sent directly from Wu Jiao while he was still sitting in his prison cell. Just when it looked like the defense was gaining ground, a massive bombshell dropped. It turns out that Wu Jiao, even from behind bars, sent threatening letters to his former patients. He warned them that if they testified, he would expose their identities to the public. These people are terrified. They don't want the world to know they were cured by a serial killer, fearing they'll be social outcasts forever. Furious at the chaos, Han Jun takes full control, declaring, "From here on out, absolutely everything regarding this trial goes through me first." Han Jun was so close to a breakthrough, only for Wu Jiao to throw a wrench into the gears. Luckily, Min Jiang uses her charm and persistence to talk the key witnesses off the ledge. She successfully convinces them to take the stand after all. The witness list is impressive. A man whose blood cancer was supposedly cured, and Sang-woo, the boy who went from being paralyzed to running around a soccer field. The team spends the entire night in a high-stakes war room session, meticulously prepping for the next day in court. When the trial resumes, Sang-woo's mother takes the stand. Her voice trembles as she describes the miracle. "Wu Jiao gave my son one injection. When he woke up, he let out a loud cry, and suddenly, he could move." Seeing the boy healthy and vibrant makes the story feel undeniably real. But Prosecutor Yun isn't just going to sit there and let them win. She's a shark. She immediately attacks the original medical records, questioning if the boy was ever actually paralyzed to begin with. She brings in an expert medical witness who testifies that doctors often just follow the initial diagnosis without double-checking it. Her argument? Sang-woo's paralysis was likely temporary and would have healed on its own. It's a devastating blow. The gallery starts to believe her, and people begin to walk out of the courtroom in disgust. Now, all the pressure is on the second witness, the cancer survivor. But for some reason, the guy is huddled in his seat, trembling and refusing to speak. Han Jun watches in horror as his case falls apart. Finally, the man finds the courage to speak, but it's not what Han Jun expected. "I'm not cured," he stammers. "I'm still undergoing treatment at the hospital." This statement is the nail in the coffin. It makes Wu Jiao look like a total fraud and a cold-blooded murderer who played with people's lives. We don't know if Yun had a hand in this witness's sudden change of heart, but she flashes a triumphant, smug smile that leaves Han Jun speechless. After the hearing, Han Jun chases the witness down to get the truth, but the man just offers a weak excuse and disappears. Losing this round means Han Jun has to face a very angry Wu Jiao. The irony is insane. Wu Jiao is the one who sent the threatening letters that scared the witnesses, yet he has the nerve to slam the table and scream at Han Jun for being incompetent. However, the plot takes one final, twisted turn. After observing the witness's interaction with Han Jun, Yun goes to talk to him again and realizes something chilling. She remembers a specific warning Wu Jiao once gave her. "Don't let the patients undergo any other treatments, or my method will fail." It turns out the cancer patient had been cured, but out of fear, he had gone back to a traditional hospital for more treatment. Just as Wu Jiao predicted, those standard medical procedures interfered with his miracle, causing the cancer to come screaming back. Wu Jiao and Han Jun are finally sitting down, mapping out a strategy that works for both of them. Wu Jiao's proposal is simple. They need to move toward a single goal. To do that, he wants to perform a formal medical demonstration using his old patient files to prove his miracle cure is the real deal. Han Jun knows this is a massive long shot, but Wu Jiao's sheer madness is infectious. The guy is so incredibly confident that he already has the cure ready to go that Han Jun finds himself genuinely fired up to defend this mad doctor. Meanwhile, news of the trial is plastered across every television screen in the country. The high-profile nature of the case has Wu Qiol feeling uneasy. He's starting to wonder if hitching his wagon to Yi Yun is going to pull him into a world of trouble. When he asks about Yi Yun's background, their colleague Min Jiang can only offer scraps of info from social media. Basically, that she's a beautiful, high flyer with an air of mystery. The next day, Yi Yun's past catches up with her. She runs into the one person she's been actively dodging, her father. They hop into a car to have a private conversation, and the tension is thick. He immediately lays into her for avoiding his calls. As they argue, the truth comes out. Yi Yun isn't just some random prosecutor. She comes from an incredibly powerful and wealthy family. Her father is there for one reason, to force her to quit the law and join the family business. But Yi Yun is standing her ground. She flatly refuses his offer, choosing her own path over her father's empire. That night, Han Jun heads to the hospital to show professional doctors the medical records of patients Wu Jiao previously treated. He needs the money to fund his daughter's procedures, so he approaches the meeting with nothing but good intentions. However, the medical staff aren't having it. They warn him not to put his faith in the ramblings of a lunatic like Wu Jiao. But Han Jun, fueled by his own eyes and the image of the boy Wu Jiao cured, starts a shouting match with the doctors to defend his position. He argues that Wu Jiao has a legitimate ability to save people, which only leads to the doctor cursing him out and storming out of the room. Meanwhile, over at her office, Yi Yun is watching a live news broadcast featuring Representative Beck. Everything is going exactly according to her plan. Knowing the politician has an election coming up, she used her connections to act as his secret advisor, pushing him to demand the death penalty for Wu Jiao. As she watches Beck rally the public for an execution, she's ecstatic. In her mind, if she gets that death sentence, her victory in this case is 100% guaranteed. Han Jun is also watching the broadcast, and the politician actually calls him out by name. Beck mocks him for constantly talking about Wu Jiao's supernatural healing powers. Han Jun is fuming, but he swallows his pride. The hope that his daughter might be cured is the only thing that keeps him from walking away. The televised speech is a massive hit with the public, and the politician is riding high on the positive ratings. To celebrate, he invites Yi Yun and Police Chief Pyo to an intimate dinner as a thank you. But as soon as the food arrives, the politician gets a call and has to step out. Left alone with Chief Pyo, Yi Yun drops the polite act. She bluntly criticizes the broadcast, telling him that the death penalty isn't a joke. She accuses the media team and the police chief of chasing likes and views, while she's the only one taking the pursuit of justice seriously. The politician returns, and the conversation turns nasty. He mocks the fact that a mess like Han Jun is even standing for the defense. The dinner ends in a flurry of insults and high-stakes tension. Thankfully, the politician returns to the table just in time to keep Yi Yun and Chief Pyo from tearing each other apart. With the tension cooled for a moment, we cut to Han Jun and his team. They've pulled an all-nighter, performing a deep-dive analysis into every corner of the case. After connecting the dots, they finally stumble upon a game-changing argument that could flip the entire trial on its head. In no time, the information Han Jun leaked hits the airwaves. A news anchor presents a shocking new theory. Is Wu Jiao really a cold-blooded killer? Or is he actually the primary victim of a much larger conspiracy? Watching the broadcast, Yi Yun is baffled. She can't believe how Han Jun's team managed to spin such a perfect, alternate reality. As the next court date approaches, the atmosphere is toxic. An angry mob has gathered outside the courthouse, protesting with a vengeance. In their minds, Wu Jiao is a monster who deserves nothing less than the death penalty, and they're screaming for Han Jun to strip off his lawyer's robes and quit. Inside, as soon as the judge gavels the session to order, Han Jun is on his feet. He requests permission to submit new evidence. Yi Yun immediately objects, trying to shut him down, but Han Jun isn't a rookie. He uses his decades of experience to outmaneuver her, citing specific legal statutes that protect a defendant's right to a fair trial. Once he wins the floor, Han Jun drops 3 bombshells. First, he presents research from a prestigious medical group that Wu Jiao worked with. It turns out that back in his student days, the group highly valued Wu Jiao's blood-related research, viewing it as a revolutionary project. Second, he drops a truth bomb about the victims. He presents a thick dossier of criminal records, proving that every single person Wu Jiao killed was a violent criminal who had exploited legal loopholes to stay on the streets. This wasn't just murder. it was vigilante justice. As the courtroom reels from these two revelations, Iyun tries to regain control, arguing that regardless of their pasts, not one person has actually been proven cured by Wu Jiao. That's when Han Jun plays his ace of spades. He boldly offers to submit Wu Jiao's actual treatment methodology for the court to review. To have this much confidence, Han Jun had previously grilled Wu Jiao in private. Only after confirming that the cure was real did he decide to stake everything on it. When the judge asks if the treatment involves human blood, Han Jun confirms it. Specifically, mutated blood cells harvested from Wu Jiao's own body. The courtroom falls into a stunned silence. It sounds like science fiction, but Han Jun is dead serious. He and his team have had the method vetted by multiple labs, and the results are unanimous. Wu Jiao's mutated cell cultivation is scientifically viable. Han Jun closes his argument with a final, desperate plea. Give Wu Jiao one chance to prove his medical genius in a controlled environment. As he exits the courthouse, Han Jun is instantly swarmed by a sea of reporters. They're all shouting the same question. Is this for real? Armed with absolute faith in Wu Jiao, Han Jun makes a career-ending bet on camera. He declares that if the defendant's claims are proven false, he will personally resign and never practice law again. Inside the holding cell, Wu Jiao is ecstatic. The plan is working perfectly, but they aren't out of the woods yet. There's one massive problem looming over them. The ancient notebook containing Wu Jiao's secret formulas is still missing. After putting their heads together, Han Jun and Wu Jiao come to a chilling realization. The police likely have the missing notebook. If that's true, it means Iyun has been sitting on the evidence this entire time. Following a high-pressure press conference, Iyun meets with her superior to discuss the case. To her surprise, even her boss is starting to waver, questioning if there's a real possibility that Wu Jiao's cure actually works. This triggers a flashback for Iyun, taking her back to the night she arrested him. She remembers barging in while he was mid-procedure. Wu Jiao had screamed a warning that stopping the surgery then would mean certain death for the patient. But the police didn't care. They dragged him away, and the patient died exactly as he predicted. Later, Iyun debates the ethics of the arrest with her partner, Wu Chiol. He's a by-the-book guy and stands firmly by their actions, dismissing the idea of a secret cure as total nonsense. They've already committed to this path, and there's no turning back now. But Iyun is restless. She scrubs through the CCTV footage from the night of the raid over and over until she spots something massive. It looks like Wu Jiao wasn't a lone wolf. A suspected accomplice was helping him with his experiments. Seizing the momentum, Iyun orders a full printout of every contact in Wu Jiao's diary and secures every second of footage within the vicinity of his factory. This is the smoking gun she needs for the final hearing. On the other side of the fence, Han Jun's team is riding high. Their theories and analyses have gone viral, racking up views and engagement across social media. However, the missing notebook is a dark cloud hanging over their victory. Han Jun retraces the timeline and identifies a key player, Professor Han, the doctor who treated Wu Jiao after his near-fatal car accident. Han Jun meets the professor and lays it all out. The mutated blood, the miracle cures, the hope for his daughter. But the professor shuts him down with cold, clinical efficiency. To him, the idea that Wu Jiao's blood can cure terminal illness is a total lie with zero scientific basis. It's a devastating blow. Han Jun leaves the meeting feeling like he's been doused in ice water, his conviction finally starting to crack. Meanwhile, Iyun receives her own medical report confirming exactly what the professor said. There is no scientific evidence to support Wu Jiao's claims. Armed with this truth, she walks into the courtroom with absolute confidence. She formally moves to block Wu Jiao's medical demonstration and demands the ultimate penalty, the death sentence. Han Jun refuses to go down without a fight. He stands up and delivers a powerful plea for humanity, accusing the prosecution of intentionally ignoring the potential medical breakthroughs of the case. He begs the court for a lighter sentence and a chance for a medical tribunal to evaluate the findings before making a final decision on Wu Jiao's life. Then comes the moment of truth. The judge delivers the final verdict. The court acknowledges that while Wu Jiao's mutated blood claims lack scientific backing, the nature of his actions, however twisted, seem to stem from a desire to cure people. Iyun and her team wait with bated breath, but their hearts sink as they realize their solid legal arguments weren't enough to stop the chaos. However, the final hammer falls with a heavy blow. Despite the talk of medical intent, the court ruled that the human cost was too high. The request for a medical demonstration is officially denied. The judge looks Wu Jiao in the eye and hands down the highest possible punishment, the death penalty. The judge drops the hammer, delivering a final verdict that sends the courtroom into a frenzy of cheers and applause. Everyone is celebrating. Everyone except Han Jun, who looks absolutely devastated. After the session, he waits behind, desperate for one last word with the judge. But the woman is hard-headed. She stands firmly by her decision, insisting that no matter his talents, Wu Jiao is nothing more than a murderer. Han Jun loses his cool, shouting at her to think about the terminally ill children whose only hope just got snatched away. But the judge doesn't care about medical breakthroughs. To her, a killer is a killer. However, this was only the first trial. Han Jun knows there's still a slim window to save Wu Jiao, which means there's zero time for rest. While the higher-ups are busy popping champagne, Yi-yun heads back to the scene of the crime. Just as she suspected, the internet is already on fire. Viral posts about Wu Jiao's miracle cure are everywhere, and netizens have even launched a massive survey to see if the public believes he can actually cure the incurable. This is all part of the master plan Han Jun and Wu Jiao cooked up together. But Han Jun isn't a fool. He knows public opinion might not be enough to sway a court of law. He tells Wu Jiao they need a plan B. Everything Han Jun is doing, every moral boundary he's crossing, is a desperate trade for his daughter's life. After a grueling day, Han Jun finally collapses onto a chair just to catch his breath. His only solace is a short phone call to his daughter, Min-seo. Deep down, he's terrified. He doesn't even know if he can trust Wu Jiao's promises. But with a 99% chance that his daughter's illness will be fatal, Han Jun is willing to bet everything on that 1% chance that the mad doctor is telling the truth. Meanwhile, Yi-yun's investigation into the murder takes a major turn. She discovers that one of the victims was actually a member of the same research institute where Wu Jiao used to work. Remembering that Han Jun mentioned this lab in court, she heads there the very next day. The place is a ghost town, looking abandoned for years. But as she explores the dusty halls, she realizes she's not alone. A shadowy figure is tailing her. Yi-yun's instincts kick in. She remembers this building only has 4 floors, and the man who just walked past her had no reason to be there. She gives chase, but the intruder fights back with vicious intensity, wounding her in the arm. Before she can recover, the man pulls a daredevil move, jumping from a high ledge to the ground and vanishing into the night. But the real horror is happening back at the prison. Because of the high-profile nature of his case, Wu Jiao is tossed into a general population cell filled with hardened thugs. One of them, it turns out, was close to one of Wu Jiao's victims. That night, they wait until they think he's fast asleep before creeping toward his bunk. They're armed only with sharpened pens, but in a confined space with numbers on their side. Those pens are lethal weapons. They swarm him, pinning him to the floor. Wu Jiao manages to hold his own for a moment. He's got some moves, but he's completely outnumbered. In the chaos, one of the thugs lunges forward, driving a pen deep into Wu Jiao's chest. The thugs are so clumsy that in the heat of the brawl, they actually start hitting their own guys. Wu Jiao sees his opening and slips through the circle of attackers. But instead of fighting back, he does something insane. He grabs a pen, stabs it into the wall, and collapses on the floor. He's rushed to the infirmary, where doctors work frantically to save him. When he finally wakes up, he grabs the doctor's hand and begs for help. As it turns out, this entire riot was part of a master plan cooked up by Han Jun. The lawyer had actually arranged for those specific inmates to be in that cell, giving Wu Jiao total control over how the scene played out. When Han Jun arrives at the prison, the doctor delivers some earth-shattering news. Even though Wu Jiao was bleeding out, he supposedly drew his own blood and performed a transfusion on another inmate. The result? The inmate's wounds, and even a severe case of peritonitis, healed instantly. It sounds like science fiction, but the doctor saw it with his own eyes. This is exactly the proof they needed. Later, Han Jun meets with Yi-yun and her boss for a high-stakes showdown. The boss tries to play hardball, announcing that they are scrapping the medical demonstration and advising Han Jun to find a different defense. Yi-yun is practically glowing with smug satisfaction. But Han Jun isn't done. He slides a newspaper article across the table about the prison miracle. The second they see the headline, Yi-yun and the director are frozen. Yi-yun is absolutely fuming. She's been trying to send this guy to the gallows, but he keeps slipping through her fingers like a ghost. But the shocks don't stop there. Shortly after the meeting, Yi-yun is stunned to learn that the medical demonstration has been fast-tracked and approved with zero resistance. It turns out Professor Han has arrived at the hospital, and his endorsement was the magic key that got the demo approved. Yi-yun rushes to check the list, and there it is. Professor Han is officially on the case. She tracks down Chief Pyo to get the inside scoop, and he drops a dark secret. When Wu Jiao was in his 3-year coma, Professor Han didn't just treat him, he used him as a human lab rat. Pyo gives Yi-yun a chilling warning. Don't dig too deep into this, or you're going to be the one who gets hurt. Meanwhile, Han Jun grills Wu Jiao about his relationship with the professor. Wu Jiao confirms that the professor was the one who treated him after the accident. Han Jun explains that the professor is the missing link, the the key witness who can validate his miracle blood in court and make the medical demonstration happen. Despite the high stakes, Wu Jiao remains eerily calm. He tells Han Jun to stop worrying and go buy a gift for his daughter. On his way out, Han Jun runs into Yun. She gives him a sarcastic congratulations on getting the demonstration approved. They have a rare, honest moment where Han Jun admits the truth. He is standing by a monster solely because of his daughter. He tells her that if he fails, he will resign and walk away from everything. He even leaves her with a wild challenge. If things don't go as planned and I've misled everyone, you can punch me in the face right in front of the entire court. Han Jun's words weren't just a promise. They were an absolute, unshakable vow. Soon after, a high-level meeting is convened to select the lucky patient who will undergo Wu Jiao's experimental procedure. This is the moment, a massive turning point for modern medicine and the only chance Han Jun has to save his daughter, Minxiu. He refuses to leave, pacing outside the room for hours, waiting for the verdict. He's praying with everything he has that Minxiu will be the one selected. But life isn't a fairy tale. When the meeting finally adjourns, Han Jun has to make the hardest phone call of his life. He tells his wife that Minxiu wasn't picked. The board chose a different little girl for the trial. Even though he's crushed, Han Jun knows he has to keep it together. He realizes that if Wu Jiao can save this girl, it proves the cure is real, and Minxiu will be next in line. The following day, the monster doctor is escorted by a heavy police detail to the hospital. This is the stage where he will prove his genius to the world. He strips off his prison jumpsuit, slides into a white lab coat, and walks into the operating room with terrifying confidence. The air in the room is thick with tension. Every doctor and observer is holding their breath, their minds filled with skepticism, yet unable to look away from the man they called a psychopath. The surgery is over in the blink of an eye. Everything went perfectly without a single complication. But then, Wu Jiao drops a bombshell. He declares that the patient will be fully recovered within exactly 24 hours. The clock starts ticking. From Han Jun to the girl's terrified family, everyone is counting down every second, paralyzed by a mix of hope and fear. Meanwhile, Yun is still playing detective. Her team sends over a forensic analysis of the residue found on the pipes in that mysterious abandoned building. As she connects the dots between Chief Pyo's warnings and the director's shady behavior, a chilling realization hits her. There is a massive, dark secret being hidden right under her nose, and she's determined to dig it up. Fast forward 24 hours, and the miracle actually happens. The little girl opens her eyes and wakes up from her coma. Her family is overwhelmed with emotion, crying tears of pure joy. It turns out that everything Wu Jiao claimed was 100% true. The very thing the medical establishment called unscientific and impossible just saved a life. Back in his prison cell, Wu Jiao hears the news and lets out a manic, terrifying grin. In his twisted mind, he finally feels like a god, a superhero who can conquer death and cure the incurable. But the victory might be short-lived. Back at Han Jun's office, a surprise visitor appears, the chairman of the medical center. It looks like the powerful elite are moving in to squash Wu Jiao's miracle before it can truly change the world. The news that geometry successfully saved a terminally ill patient is spreading like wildfire. It is expected that the jury will hit a roadblock when sentencing this convict. Since this is a medical miracle, the fact that a murderer can cure many incurable diseases could turn the tide of the trial. The standoff is getting harder and harder for Chan's side. That is because the benefit geometry brings to society outweighs his crimes. Hanzuin's group was happily preparing a spicy noodle meal to celebrate when the doorbell rang, making the whole team think the delivery had arrived. But surprisingly, the person outside claimed to be Zhang Su, chairman of Chum Medical Center. His appearance in the middle of the night seemed to signal bad news for Hanzuin's group. The lawyer himself had to go out to greet this dangerous-looking guy. That guy Zhang Su talked down to him like a superior, even though his face was young enough to be Hanzuin's grandson. He spoke jokingly with hidden meanings about Hanzuin's sick daughter, making the lawyer uncle lose his cool and force him to get straight to the point. Our medical center can extract geometry Sayo and use it as medicine to treat your daughter. The chairman stated his demand point blank. Everyone understood what this guy was plotting. He always wanted the Sherong Geometry Medical Station dead. Otherwise, his entire medical business or the whole world would collapse. Zhang Su kept inviting Hanzuin to his side, but Hanzuin just laughed meaningfully, making Zhang Su unable to figure out what he was thinking. Clearly, Hanzuin has a gold mine in his hands that everyone craves, but for a father devoted to his daughter like him, that's not worth worrying about. Hanzuin ignored Hu Chun and Min Dong, who were obsessed with that magic remedy. He stood up, grabbed his suitcase, and went to visit his daughter, who was struggling to hold on to every second of her life. Just as he stepped out the door, reporters swarmed in, shoving mics in Hanzuin's face for an interview. The situation was getting messier as the whole world knew the value of Seijin. Just because of that, Yun faced the wrath of furious officials who took it out on her. Even though they use power and the law, these officials are just thirsty for the geometry gold mine. Yun was pushed to end the trial quickly, but the lawyer acted cool because she thought she still had a move left. We will play mind games with public opinion using the side effects of that remedy. Yun was confident she could seize this chance. Not bothering to talk to those useless officials anymore, she demanded to go home. She was already busy with a million things, yet she had to explain things to these blockheads who only knew how to sit and watch. Oh, and one more thing before leaving. Yun had to act high and mighty to teach these shrimp brains a lesson. Do you think winning the trial is all your own doing? Senators or officials are just puppets. So if you need anything, come straight to the office and talk. I don't have time to come all the way here to chat with you guys. The officials were super salty but couldn't do a thing because they didn't know how to do anything. Finally, Geometry's last trial arrived. Before, people only protested demanding Geometry's execution. But after witnessing that magical CI stuff cure all diseases, the public has split into two opposing sides. One side supports him, while the other side still tries hard to oppose the law sparing a serial killer's life. Geometry slowly walked in, passing through that chaotic crowd. His face seemed to radiate satisfaction when he saw those supporting him. Right at the start of the trial, Yun stood up to blindside Hansuin and Geometry. The lawyer showed images of two patients previously treated by Geometry. Two people who seemed completely cured before were now in critical condition. Yun used this excuse to argue in court that Geometry CIs might not be a miracle drug. She still proposed the death penalty for the defendant Geometry. Because the evidence Yun presented was verified, many people whispered and partly believed the lawyer's words. Hansuin sat silently for a while, then suddenly stood up. If your evidence is correct, I have nothing left to present. Facing this surrender that was actually a challenge, Yun just stood frozen. Not stopping there, Hansuin continued to present his argument. He claimed that the two witnesses Yun brought up had been treated with other drugs. For those who don't know, once treated with other methods, Geometry Sayo is almost useless. The lawyer said that Geometry had warned the police about that, but they didn't listen. So those two witnesses had to face the recurring terminal illness leading to a critical state. With his own defense talent, Hansuin successfully used his former student's own logic to defeat Yun. With his tough words, Hansuin successfully turned the tables in his favor. Yun could only hold her face helplessly when facing her old teacher. The defendant was a person who took many lives, but the number of people he can save in the future will be much larger than the people murdered. So the defendant's punishment will be to treat sick people. Finally, the judge made the final decision. Geometry will keep his life, but instead, he will have to pay for his crimes by saving more people than he took out during the rest of his life. Finally, all of Hansuin's efforts paid off. Jiangsu was also quick to claim Geometry for his team first. In the name of a big hospital, he will set up a facility to protect Geometry so he can treat patients with peace of mind. Many high-ranking officials also had disagreements because of this. Yun was transferred to a faraway place because of that, considered a punishment for her. Hansuin brought the good news into the prison for Geometry. First, let's save Minil, right? Turns out Geometry isn't an ungrateful person as he wanted to treat Minil first. Hansuin was walking on air because finally, his daughter could say goodbye to the Grim Reaper. But it seems things aren't that simple. The chairman of the medical center, Jiangsu, seems to be calculating something. Even though he is young, he talks like a superior to Senator B. Geometry is now living in a luxurious place, but he is still like a prisoner within four walls under strict guard. He is just like a goose laying golden eggs for that guy Jiangsu. It seemed Hansuin's daughter could be treated, but now he is getting a headache about how to get Minil a spot for treatment. Because the news about that cure-all serum line is known by the whole world. Now thousands of people have to line up to get a number to be treated, so how can little Minil wait until then? Although Jiangsu had previously made an offer to prioritize Minil through the back door. In return, Hansuin would have to persuade Geometry to make medicine with them. But how can a righteous person like Hansuin do that? He would rather wait for his turn than do the wrong thing that guy suggested. But the longer they wait, the worse Minil's health gets. Dad, where are you? I can't see. The little girl panicked because even though she opened those glittering eyes wide, Minil still saw only darkness. At this time, Yun suddenly discovered something hidden by those old officials. Records about geometrical being used by an old professor for experiments right on his own body. She clearly noticed many mysteries, but since she lost the case, Yun no longer had any authority to keep investigating this matter deeply. Somehow, miraculously, that guy Jiangsu quickly caught wind that Yun was investigating Professor Han. Chairman Jiangsu seemed to be behind everything, but even he didn't know where Professor Han was. So Jong-soo urgently ordered his subordinates to find that professor's hideout no matter what. We have to find the cure quickly. According to Jong-soo, it seems that Professor is the key to his plan to take over the cure. Oh, it's not necessary for him to be breathing. Jong-soo suddenly dropped a hint for his subordinate to understand. It seems that cold-blooded guy wants to wipe out every witness standing in his way. That very night, the subordinate tracked down where the professor was staying. He kicked the door in only to see that Old Man Han had already got in a car and fled. Yun suddenly went to Hansuin's place because she was still secretly looking into the truth hidden behind everything. Now there was only one person she could trust to talk to, and that was Hansuin. At first, Hansuin didn't really trust Yun. But what if this involved geometry? But after hearing her tell the whole story, Hansuin's face went pale. In the middle of this mess, another incident hit Hansuin. He suddenly got a call from his wife, but on the other end, he only heard her sobbing. At the same time, Geometry was also quite surprised that Minil's name wasn't on the treatment list. When Hansuin rushed back in a panic, he only saw his wife sitting in shock in front of the emergency room. The condition is getting worse. Perhaps you two should prepare yourselves. The doctor felt heavy-hearted facing Minil's parents. Hearing this, the little girl's mother just sobbed uncontrollably. At the same time, Yun was facing Chairman Jong-soo. Did Professor Han conduct experiments on the human body even though it wasn't allowed? Geometry was also caught up in the trouble Jong-soo caused. Now he had to sit across from the person who used to conduct crazy experiments on his body. Memorize it. You only have 3 minutes for that day. The surprise was that Old Man Han pulled out a map of the house. It turns out that to get access to the secret room, Old Man Han had bribed the guard in front of Geometry's room with a large amount of money. Both of them had a secret plan for Geometry to escape. I will give you the medicine you used to dream of, but for now just stay at my house. Geometry also had a plan for both of them. But Old Man Han didn't know that he was being watched by Jong-soo's subordinate. Back to the conversation between Jong-soo and Yun, he remained calm in front of her questions. That was because Yun still didn't have any evidence to convict him. Jong-soo kept using the excuse that the human experiments were only for developing medicine. Even the victim consented, so this couldn't be considered illegal. In Geometry's case, we also obtained his mother's signature of consent. His words were watertight, not revealing any loopholes for Yun. However, it was because of exactly what he said. After investigating for a while, Yun realized he was lying. Geometry's mother had been in a vegetative state and died a long time ago, so how did he get a signature? She immediately called a police officer to help her. At the same time, Geometry also began his first treatment session. Facing him was a little girl who was somewhat afraid of a famous killer. But contrary to his usual cold face, Geometry was very gentle and caring toward the scared girl, helping her gradually relax. When he started the treatment, Jong-soo seemed very focused on the process. Suddenly, a subordinate walked in and showed him a notebook. You probably need to see this right away because it's Professor Han's notebook. Following the subordinate's words, Jong-soo opened the notebook and was startled to see dense rows of formulas. Perhaps that was Professor Han's life's work. So Jong-soo immediately mobilized the entire research team. Meanwhile, Hu Chun and Min Dong were looking for information to sell for money. This was the place where Geometry's mother's body was found due to a heart attack. Hu Chun accidentally led her to the exact location that needed to be investigated. Min Dong immediately realized something unusual. How could a person with a heart attack fall from a high bridge? Smelling money for the tabloids, Hu Chun immediately ran off to search, forcing Min Dong to chase after him. Yun also sniffed out the fishy scent of the truth. She dragged Officer Gong along with her straight to Geometry's old house. The police officer didn't seem to want to because they weren't allowed to break in there. But before he could finish his sentence, Yun had already broken down the door. She even said that now they were both accomplices. This left Officer Gong helpless, trailing behind her. Ms. Yun, I'm not a thief. I'm a police officer. Even though he said that, the officer's hand was still trying to pick the lock. Suddenly, Yun noticed a sneaking figure, shouted, and gave chase. However, the stranger was quite agile, making the chubby Officer Gong unable to catch up. They had to split up to catch him. While running at full speed, Yun slammed her head into someone. She was in so much pain she could only hold her head and crouch down. It turns out the block of dirt Yun hit was actually reporter Hu Chun's head. He really is a blockhead, so no wonder he didn't feel any pain. It was then that we realized the stranger was actually Old Man Han. He had come to Geometry's house to hide, just as he was told. But just as Old Man Han turned around, he froze at the sight of another figure. Those 4 people were also looking for the truth and happened to bump into each other. Even though they used to be opponents in the legal arena, all 4 of them easily joined forces to uncover the hidden truth. According to Yun's investigation, Geometry's mother used to suffer from depression when her only son mysteriously went missing. Geometry's mother was frantic with worry, searching everywhere for her son but receiving no news. Little did she know that her son had been taken away to be brutally experimented on. The truth was slowly being revealed, but it seemed not fast enough for little Minal's condition. Hansuin looked at his unconscious daughter on the hospital bed with a heavy heart, remembering her innocent, pitiful eyes when she dreamed of a bright future. Hansuin was sighing when suddenly the beeping sound from the life support monitor went off. Each beep felt like a call from the Grim Reaper for the little girl. Although the doctors rushed in immediately, the situation didn't look good. Hansuin and his wife could only stand and watch their critically ill daughter in helplessness. The very next day, Hansuin went to see Geometry. Even though they had successfully saved his life, the promise remained unfulfilled. Is Minal's condition getting worse? Geometry immediately realized it from Hansuin's gloomy face. That list of patients to be treated doesn't have Minal's name. Geometry, please save my daughter. This was the first time Hansuin had to humbly beg Geometry. Almost all hope was gone for the loving father. Hansuin slowly knelt down. He could no longer keep his composure. Seeing a father kneel to a murderer for his child makes even Geometrical feel bad. Acting so righteous looks truly ridiculous. The real devil is Jong-soo, who just stands behind the camera and mocks them. Because of the offer he made, he asked Hansuin to convince Geometrical to make medicine for him. This was in exchange for a treatment for little Minal. It turns out he was the one who messed with the patient list himself. That is why the innocent child Minal didn't get treated in time and now can only fight for life every second. After that, just as he left Geometry's house, Hansuin suddenly got a call from Hu Chun. The car you asked me to investigate belongs to the Chung group. Hansuin heard this, realized something, and immediately went to see Yun. He is the one who killed 17 people. He is too arrogant. According to Yun, Hansuin realized with a shock that Geometry used him to escape the death penalty. From the very beginning, Yun was right to have no feelings for Geometry. He knew beforehand that he would be caught but remained arrogant because he knew he wouldn't be executed. Yun agreed to join Hansuin to bring the truth to light. Manager Oh is also involved in this. Are you ready to be fired? She ignored Hansuin's warning and remained firm in her opinion. Hansuin agreed to give all of Geometry's information to Yun. In return, she also had to give him all the information about Chairman Jong-soo. Finally, the truth has come out. Yun investigated and found that Officer Gong is the one they need to be careful of. Yun invited Gong to a barbecue even though his body looks no different from a pig. This guy didn't have his guard up at all and blabbed everything he did for Oh Han, and that Gong himself was the one who hid the truth about the death of Geometry's mother. The fat police officer is the one who helped Jong-soo's company carry out their dark deeds. It seems he also realized Yun was looking into him, so he immediately called a stranger to snitch. That night, Yun called back her 2 former subordinates to chat and catch up. Clearly, she used to be a tough boss, so her subordinates didn't like her. But this was the first time Yun sat and drank with the 2 of them, so finally all misunderstandings were cleared, and they agreed to help Yun with the case. At the same time, that fat guy Gong was sitting and sipping drinks with Jong-soo's subordinate. This guy is also just a puppet helping Chairman Jong-soo carry out his dark deeds. The 2 groups of Hansuin and Yun used to be rivals, but now they have to join hands to bring the truth to light, because that miracle Sayo is making the whole world shake, and stocks are skyrocketing without stopping. I really respect Jong-soo for being a person who knows the trends, knowing this beforehand and pulling Geometry into his company. Geometry is still like a goose laying golden eggs for his company. Now, he is like a saint sent everywhere to treat terminally ill patients. Yun suddenly got news from Officer Gong. She immediately went to the scene and witnessed that Old Man Han was now just a soulless corpse in Geometry's own house. It seems the dark shadow Old Man Han saw the other night was this guy Gong, which is why he lost his life. His and Geometry's plan seemed like it would fall apart. Geometry escaped while he was saving someone. Yun continued to receive bad news that the killer she was chasing had escaped. How on earth was the person who helped Geometry escape actually Hansuin? Hansuin went back to find Geometry. This time, he gathered all his courage and swallowed his pride to beg Geometry to save his little daughter. Seeing Hansuin's love for his child, Geometry immediately agreed to save little Minal, but it came with a condition he hoped Hansuin could fulfill. What he asked Hansuin to do was find Professor Han. In return, Geometry would guarantee that Minal's terrible illness would be treated. Caught between 2 choices, Hansuin had no other way but to agree to Geometry's offer. At this moment, his daughter's life was always his top priority. That night, Hansuin's teammates caught a surprise piece of news in the papers. Immediately, the reporter put a motor on his but to investigate a guy named Jong-soo, who is Professor Han's son. On this side, Professor Han is on his knees begging Jong-soo to let Geometry go. He added that if they overused geometry, there wouldn't be a good result, all because geometry's body would change after each time his blood was drawn. It seems every word from the professor fell on this brat's deaf ears. He even cruelly declared, "If geometry's blood changes after each draw, then I'll drain it dry before it has a chance to change." After saying those words, Jiang-Su quietly turned his back, leaving the professor to be beaten to a pulp by his subordinates. At this time, Yun had an intimate dinner with the assistant of Senator Beck. Seeing this guy was just an assistant but could eat and drink so luxuriously made Yun's mouth itch. She kept poking at him, making the assistant try to dodge the topic by bringing up geometry's case that she was pursuing. At this point, Yun laid her cards on the table, asking the assistant straight up why he had previously leaked secret information to her. Was this a trick he came up with to use her hand to take down Senator Beck? Seeing that Yun was a smart person, the assistant immediately got straight to the point and asked her to guarantee his safety before he shared more sensational information. After being heartless to Professor Han, Jiang-Su couldn't stop thinking about things from the past and felt like he was falling into a nervous breakdown. He immediately changed his clothes, revealing a back covered in scars, and then went to find Geometry. Seeing Jiang-Su appear right before his eyes, Geometry confidently walked toward him and greeted him in an extremely friendly way. He even thanked this Jiang-Su guy because it was thanks to him that Geometry could treat patients. The conversation between the two started right after that. Just a moment into the meeting, Geometry bombarded Jiang-Su with questions about the miracle drug extracted from his own blood. Questions like what the uses were and what was in the blood's composition. Along with that, when the new blood is restored, does it still work? Facing a series of questions that felt like psychological manipulation from Geometry, Jiang-Su could only stand there with a blank face like a dog reading fine print. It seemed he couldn't even open his mouth to say a word and just sat silently listening to Geometry preach. The next day, Geometry had to demonstrate his crazy medical skills to the public. While all the information and live streams about him were blowing up on the news, Yun also started taking action. As soon as she got a call from her partner, she gathered all the documents and evidence she had and went straight to the UK's office. It turns out that in her meeting with the senator's assistant earlier, she was fed a lot of secret news related to this case. Thanks to that, she and her teammates investigated to the roots to find Professor Han's illegal practice. All the things that happened in the past were covered up by Senator Beck's single hand. Facing Yun and the blunt accusations from her made the UK freak out. He screamed straight at her face, hoping Yun would be scared and shut her damn mouth. But no, Yun kept tearing into the UK's face. Not only that, there was also help with more evidence from Hanzuen's team, making Yun like a tiger with wings. It must be said that the advantage belonged entirely to Yun. The moment she ordered the UK to approve the judgment warrant was also the moment Geometry entered the operating room. With his composure, he immediately proceeded to draw the first tube of blood. In the operating room at this time, a stranger appeared, who had been given a stack of money by Professor Han beforehand. The presence of this person here was likely to ruin Geometry's surgery. On this side, Senator Beck's office also had a lockdown order, forcing him to bow his head and accept the investigation. After sneaking inside the hospital, Hanzuen started carrying out the plan that he and Geometry had prepared beforehand. Once he successfully got the goods inside and the surgery ended, that was when the power system there was completely cut off. In the darkness, Geometry immediately took action against Jiang-Su's subordinates. It turns out among them was a guy planted by Professor Han himself to support Geometry's actions. Afterward, Geometry successfully removed the device attached to his body, then slipped through the darkness to escape the pursuit of the men under Jiang-Su. They thought that was it, but he and Hanzuen were followed closely by a strange car that wouldn't leave them for a second. At this time, Hanzuen had to play the bald guy from Fast and Furious, weaving through to shake them off no matter what, but man's plans are nothing compared to a thug's plans. Just as they escaped for a moment, the couple got T-boned by a car, making Hanzuen and Geometry reel from the shock. When the crowd approached intending to take Geometry back, Hanzuen found every way to stop them and stall for time waiting for the big reporter guy to arrive. Luckily, he was still on time. Hanzuen and the big guy made a quick plan, and then each took a task. Hanzuen hurried to escape, while the big guy single-handedly fed those brats a mouthful of onions. Thanks to the help from the big guy, Hanzuen brought Geometry to a safe place. His wife and daughter were waiting there for Geometry to save them. Seeing little Minil right before him, Geometry gave a friendly smile, then proceeded to draw his blood to treat her. After injecting his serum, Geometry passed out from exhaustion, leaving Hanzuen and his wife worried sick. Partly they worried for Minil's life, and partly for the life of the benefactor who saved their daughter. After letting Geometry escape, Jiang-Su had to face a reprimand from the company's board of directors. Despite being the chairman at this time, Jiangsu still had to sit as quietly as a puppy and take the scolding from the older men and women. In conclusion, when asked about the feasibility of the treatment method taken from Geometry's blood, Jiangsu could only stand up in silence and ask everyone for a little time so he could prove it. Geometry once had a very peaceful life with his mother. Every morning, he would welcome the sunrise on his sun-drenched balcony and eat the hearty meals his mother woke up early to prepare. Geometry and his mother lived quietly together in this busy life. Geometry was also an excellent medical student loved by both friends and lecturers. With those impressive academic achievements, the famous Sang Ho also wanted to meet him. Geometry was very happy then and couldn't wait any longer to brag about his success to his mother. The mother and son even promised to celebrate that night. Yet, disaster struck at the moment people least expected it. That night, on the deserted road that Geometry usually took home, out of nowhere, a car driving like a thief sped straight toward him as he was crossing the street. The memory of that night was the start of the nightmare that tormented him every night. Geometry woke up and found himself lying in that same bed. Only Hansuin and his wife were there taking care of Geometry's wounds. The boy lost too much Sio and needed a transfusion. It wasn't that easy because Geometry's Sio group is the rarest blood type in the world. He can give blood to everyone but can only receive it from people with the same group. Finding someone with the exact same blood type now is like finding a needle in a haystack. This is exactly why Jiangsu craves Geometry so much. Just because he disappeared, Jiangsu's corporation's stock prices plummeted. If we hadn't found him, he'd probably be dead in some corner by now, Jiangsu said angrily, acting like he was Geometry's savior. In reality, he was the one who locked Geometry in a prison of his own making. The intern lawyer, Min Dong, was worried sick when she couldn't reach anyone. Suddenly, Hu Chun rushed in out of breath, covered in injuries. This whole area is hunting for Hansuin for helping Geometry escape. Hearing that, Min Dong finally knew what was happening. Hansuin did it because he had no other choice. His daughter, Minil, had been fighting for her life every second. Luckily, after all that effort, the little girl finally received Geometry's Sio. Now it's only a matter of time before Minil wakes up. Geometry saw Hansuin always staying by his bedside. He tried to push himself up so he could sit and talk to Hansuin one last time. Perhaps because of his special blood, Geometry was now able to sit up. This was the first time the two of them sat and talked deeply after all this time. Hansuin used to see Geometry as a crazed killer. But after going through so many trials together, he gradually had different thoughts. Hansuin only saw that the person sitting in front of him now was just an ordinary young man. A kind-hearted kid pushed into crime by fate. So, do you plan on getting married and having kids? This simple and unexpected question from Hansuin made Geometry laugh so hard, he almost ripped his wounds. To him, having a happy life and a wonderful daughter like Minil was a dream worth having. But perhaps that normal dream was now too far away for Geometry. His hands were stained with blood, and everyone was hunting him like a money-making drug. Later, Geometry took Hansuin to the place where his mother was murdered. There, all the evil schemes of Jiangsu were revealed. Geometry's accident in the past was just unintentional. But when Jiangsu found out this young man had the rarest blood type in the world, he took it upon himself to keep Geometry and perform a series of inhumane experiments on him. Jiangsu even bribed the fat police officer to lie to Geometry's mother. He experimented on Geometry and then indirectly caused his mother's death. This guy is truly no better than an animal. A loving mother, just because she believed his lies, quit her job and ran everywhere every day to find her son. When Geometry's mother was given a video recording of his accident by someone, she realized something was wrong. That night, we took that unconscious boy to Chum Hospital. Going to the rescue station, a glimmer of hope sparked in her when she knew her son might still be alive. Step by step, the mother gathered evidence to sue the damn hospital that was holding her son. But because of that, Geometry's mother put herself in danger. She was spotted by Jiangsu's henchmen while protesting in front of the hospital gate. They were so cruel they kidnapped her and threw Geometry's mother's body into the river to hide the evidence. Geometry's small family was destroyed by Jiangsu like that. He stopped at nothing just for the sake of money and power. A once obedient student had become a crazed killer seeking justice for himself. Blurry images of his mother kept tormenting Geometry's mind, to the point that now he has to use a hypnosis machine to fall asleep. Hansuin was surprised when he looked at Geometry's desk. All images of him and Yun were part of Geometry's plan. Turns out that from the beginning, this genius kid had found a way to survive on his own. Geometry had investigated everyone involved in his trial in great detail, and with that genius mind, he made Hansuin agree to defend him. Do you think if Jiangsu disappears, the murderer should disappear too? Geometry suddenly asked Hansuin a question. Perhaps from the start he still had the intention of revenge, and even now he still does. Both were standing on the bridge when suddenly a long line of cars drove up. Zhang Su somehow got the location of the two of them. He brought a dozen henchmen and calmly stepped out, demanding geometry back. Don't you guys care about millions of terminally ill people around the world? I have no idea what's in this guy's head when, in his eyes, geometry is just a drug to make money. He spoke as if it were obvious that geometry had to go back to the hospital with him to save people. After everything Zhang Su had done to him, geometry couldn't stay calm any longer. Geometry rushed up to punch Zhang Su's dog face but was blocked by a henchman. Seeing geometry get knocked back, Zhang Su turned around and beat the henchman up. He acted so brutally that the other guy passed out. Then he turned around and hissed, "Sorry, geometry. It seems this villain's nerves are totally messed up. Everyone makes mistakes. Both you and I do. But forget it. Let's focus on the bigger goal." It turns out Zhang Su was only afraid that geometry wouldn't cooperate and become a specimen for him to extract medicine. Geometry pretended to take the hand. Zhang Su reached out to grab the chance to restrain this madman. "Have you ever considered saving more lives than the ones you took?" Geometry couldn't stand watching this madman put on an act anymore. It turns out, while investigating on his own, he discovered a thick list of victims Zhang Su used for experiments, including children. Their time locked in the lab might have been longer than the time they spent with their parents. Turns out he's showing his true nature now. From the start, the rumor that Zhang Su was used by his old man for experiments was just a rumor. He was the one who wanted to become a test subject himself because of his crazed mind. Now, when recounting the moment of being dissected, Zhang Su became even more excited. Geometry and Zhang Su are now like opposites of each other. One lost everything and chose to kill for revenge to save more lives. One has everything but chooses to kill more people to save a few. But clearly, Geometry's only goal was to take revenge on those who took his mother's life. At the climax, suddenly the sound of a police car siren rushed in. It turns out Yun had heard about the situation from Mindong and rushed to this place. Geometry took the opportunity to pull out scissors to stab this jerk Zhang Su. But Hanzuin stopped him because Geometry's sins were already piled up like a mountain. But no matter what, Geometry couldn't let Zhang Su keep acting up. "If I let him go, thousands of people will suffer the same fate as me." Having said that, Geometry rushed straight up, took out the henchman, and then took one of Zhang Su's eyes. Both struggled with each other until the police burst in and pointed their guns at Geometry. "That's enough. We have gathered enough statements from his victims already." Yun tried her best to beg Geometry to put down the syringe. But for Geometry, everything was already too late. He raised his hand high, intending to deliver one last stab to end it all. A gunshot rang out. However, the person hit by the bullet was not Geometry. Hanzuin himself had jumped out to shield his daughter's benefactor from that bullet. "Stop right there. I know what you are thinking right now, but this time, I swear I will find every way to save you once again." Hanzuin hoped that, for his sake, Geometry would put down the weapon. But how could the hatred that had been bottled up for so long be easily let go? "Prosecutor Yun, please take care of Hanzuin." After saying those words, he lunged forward, intending to stab Zhang Su's remaining eye. Seriously, these cops act like they have not watched movies from the beginning. They could have just let Geometry get one stab in before shooting, right? Before Geometry could finish off Zhang Su, he was hit by a bullet in a vital spot and gradually lost his strength. Even though Yun tried her best to rush over and save him, she could only watch helplessly as Geometry fell straight into the river. It was in that very same river that his mother had once been left behind. Now, the mother and son could finally return to each other's side just like in the peaceful days. Life must go on. Luckily, the law did not turn a blind eye to the crimes of Zhang Su and his company. With the evidence Geometry had gathered, Yun presented to the press the crimes of Zhang Su and the 223 victims he murdered, successfully ending the brutal regime that Zhang Su and his father had built on the blood and bones of innocent people. After the case, Yun successfully regained her position, along with kicking out that bastard senator who was Zhang Su's loyal lapdog. Geometry's death perhaps did not stop there. "If anything happens to me, open my hypnosis machine. There is an answer in there." Hanzuin followed Geometry's words from before he died. It turns out that from the very beginning, the guy had a secret remedy hidden away. He knew his life would be in danger anyway, so he left behind this miracle drug for humanity. But Hanzuin did not think that way. To him, every person's life depends on fate. No one has the right to take away or decide the fate of another person's life. Just as Hanzuin was about to drop the vial into the place where Geometry passed away, his phone suddenly rang from an unknown number. "Hello, are you doing well?" "It is me." That familiar voice rang out miraculously, making Hanzuin laugh because he knew everything had finally turned out okay. That is the end of the movie.